The next stage that we would discuss is the storming stage. Now, as we progress through these stages, forming, storming, norming, performing, norming, adjourning, um, the only one that will fall in the correct order is adjourning. That means that's the end of the group and it's time to terminate. Forming, of course, is the beginning, but the storming, norming, and performing could occur at any time. Your group can go in and out of these stages. So just be aware of that. So these are not concrete in order stages. So the storming age, and there will be conflict. That is a characteristic of the storming stage, competition and conflict. As a group members attempt to organize for whatever task is at hand, conflict inevitably results in their personal reactions. Individuals have to bend their feelings, their ideas, their attitudes, their beliefs to suit the group organizations. Although conflicts may or may not surface as group issues, they do exist. So questions will arise about who's going to be responsible for what the rules are in this particular situation, what's the reward system, conflict over leadership, over structure, over power, over authority. So there's several different types of conflicts that will occur or could possibly occur in group. There may be wide swings in members' behaviors based on emergent issues of competition or hostilities. Some members may completely refrain completely and become silent during this stage in an attempt to dominate or to just say, forget it. Let's just let this pass on. Characteristics of the Norman stage or storming stage. There's negativity. Some type of negativity is going to be taking place. Some type of dissatisfaction. Hostility could be an argument. The group's going to hit what's called crisis mode. That's the differences. They tend to suppress their tension and their differences during this time period. They tend to start surfacing. And then just anxiety. There's a high period of anxiety. So storming stage, not fun at all. So as we look at the steps of the storming night stage, most group work can be classified as problem solving. A problem is defined as a discrepancy between the way things are and the way that we want things to be. So as long as one member meets that criteria, that definition, that will constitute a place to group in the storming stage. So yes, your group could potentially always stay in the storming stage. Most of us have our own individual approach to solving problems. Think about a problem that you may have at home or at work. You have your own methodology or steps on how you solve problems. But it's unlikely that these are shared between all members in your group or even all members within your particular family or household. Therefore, we need to adopt some type of systematic approach to problem solving. You need to be able to teach a group of people how to solve problems effectively so that they can take this skill and move it on into their individual or personal life. So let's take a look at each of the individual steps of storming. Define the problem, brainstorm for solutions, group evaluate the solutions, group choose a solution, and then group implements the solution. Let's take a look at each of these. Defining the problem. This is it would be a drastic mistake to assume that everyone understands what the exact problem is. You guys will see this as we meet in the skills portion. I'll throw out a problem and it seems like that may be the particular problem, but you as a facilitator need to be able to dig deeper into what is actually going on and see what is the actual problem that this person or this group is dealing with. So when defining a problem, the group needs to identify the problem as specific as possible. Be specific as possible. Make sure that everyone understands what the problem is. And then number two, you may have to go around the group or the circle and get everyone's perspective. Get them all to participate in the group or in the problem. So defining a problem is your first step of a problem stage. Avoid the temptation to bypass this. and assume that everyone understands clearly what the problem is. Some of the problems that manifest can be dealt with simply by one person, the perpetrator. Other problems that will involve other members of the group getting involved. So define the problem as specific and as clearly as you possibly can. First step of the problem solving model. The second step is brainstorm for solutions. The group has reached a common understanding of what the problem is because you either went around that group or addressed the main people who are really hot and upset about what's going on. Because you've allowed each of them to define what the problem is, you guys should have a clear understanding at this point of what the problem is. Now, I say that lightly, but it is extremely hard to really narrow down and get a clear definition of what the problem is. So once you reach that understanding, then start looking for solutions during this step. Start looking for solutions. How do you do that? You may hold 20 or 30-minute session where you just simply generate ideas. Now, put if needed on the slide because again, some of the solutions are pointed towards one person. If you have one person that's continually interrupting a group, then the whole group doesn't need to generate ideas. That one person the group can generate ideas, but that one person is the person who can solve that solution or that issue. So, nonetheless, hold a 20 or 30-minute session to generate ideas of how to deal with the problem. And then you can write down those ideas and those solutions to the problem either on the board or on a sheet of paper, but they need to be written down because you will need to evaluate those solutions in the next step. So during the brainstorming step, all ideas, whether humorous, disastrous, fantastic, they all receive equal quality. So all you're doing at this stage is just generating ideas. You're not cutting any out. You're not evaluating anything, although it's pretty clear some of them will not work. You're just generating solutions. Step two of the problem solving model. Step three, evaluating solutions. This is simply just discussing the pros and cons of each of the solutions that have been written down. You can go through each one and discuss, say, for instance, no interrupting. And one of the solutions is place the person out of the group. What's the positive about that? Well, if we put Jimmy out of the group, then we will not no longer have interruption. He's no longer going to interrupt the group. But then what's negative about that? What's a con? If you place Jimmy out of the group, he is now no longer receiving the help that he needs, which is ultimately to deal with addiction. So you're going to weigh the pros and cons of each of the generated brainstorm solutions that the group came up with. Keep in mind, as you're discussing the pros and cons, how does the solution address or solve the problem? What parts of the problem do not get solved? And then what are the shortcomings of this solution? This is your job to keep these questions in mind. The group will not be thinking about this, so therefore it is your responsibility. Group evaluates the solution by discussing the pros and the cons. Step four, group choose a solution. If all goes well, when evaluating the pros and cons, one solution will clearly be superior to all the others. Choose that solution. No longer discussing, you've already discussed in the pros and cons. So once you go around, everyone, you're discussing pros and cons, you can ask, okay, um, once you've discussed everything, okay, which of these solutions do you guys think is the best? And there's probably clearly going to be one solution that sticks out. So choose it. And then finally, the fifth step is to group implements a solution. It is time to choose that solution and implement it. Basically, just put it in action. Okay, so from this point forward, Jimmy, our solution is that you will no longer interrupt. You will raise your hand before you talk. So from this point on, we're going to hold you accountable to this solution and then put it in play. So the steps of the storming stage is defining the problem, brainstorm for solutions, evaluate the solutions, group choose the solutions, and finally implement the solution. Tips for you as a leader. Remember that this is the group. And so therefore that means there is no individual winner, no individual loser. If the group wins, the group wins. If the group loses, the group loses. So those are the only two possible outcomes, and keep that in mind as you discuss. That is your number one tip. Tip number two, the group must be engaged in the discussion. If you only have one or two people involved in that discussion, then the remainder of your group is going to split and they're going to start their own conversations. They're going to talk about how stupid this is. So be sure you engage the group and keep everyone involved. And we will definitely practice that skill and your skill of evaluating the group with your eyes. As people are talking, you're still scanning that group, reading body language and nonverbals. Don't lock yourself into one position as a facilitator. Do not, I repeat, lock yourself into one position because sometimes in the storming stage, that group will be attacking you. They will be attacking your leadership skills and your knowledge. So do not lock yourself into a position. Remain flexible. Try hard to understand the ideas that you're criticizing or that are being criticized by others towards you. Just try hard to understand that. So many people appear to be more foolish who don't know that they're arguing. So don't be a foolish person and argue with your group and not realize that you're arguing with your group. Stop, take a breath, take in the criticism, take in the feedback, so then you can gather yourself and then come from whatever perspective you need to. Just make sure it's not an argumentative perspective. Because my gosh, guys, they have enough of that at home. Treat all group members with respect. Another tip. And then look for new ideas that will help the group grow as opposed to staying locked into the same little mold that the group tends to be in. So those are your tips. Those are the steps of storming. We will see you guys in class.